Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're doing well. Key takeaways and reactions for UFC Brazil. We saw Charles Oliveira beat Mateusz Gamrot in the main event. What does Charles do? He basically heals our timeline and makes sure that our timeline still makes sense. It's not broken, so don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Okay? This was meant to happen because this makes sense. And going back to things making sense, is it's enlightening. It feels great. And just takeaways from every single fight, gonna go through it. And the first takeaway was the complete disregard for the letter R in the Portuguese language. Cause I thought it was UFC Brazil in Rio de Janeiro. And apparently it isn't. It's UFC Brazil at Rio de Janeiro. So in the Portuguese language, they basically view the letter R the same way everyone views a woman with OnlyFans that claims to be Christian. Okay? Don't see it. Doesn't exist. Right? So let's just replace the letter R with H. And then everything would just make sense. Right? Starting off this card in the bantamweight division for one guy. The other one just. So, Luan Lacerda came in at the bantamweight limit context, right? 136 pounds, which is the legal limit if you're fighting at 135 pounds. You get that 1 pound on basically both ends, right? He came in at 136 pounds. His opponent, Simon Oliveira, came in at 144 pounds, missing weight by 8 pounds. So basically, Simon Oliveira could have fought with a newborn at his side and would have been a 2v1, and he lost, so he would have still basically ended up losing. But Simon Oliveira saw cutting weight the same way the Portuguese language see the letter R. They're not gonna put any effort into it and basically just act as if it doesn't exist. Overweight by 8 pounds. So Luan Lacerda fought at bantamweight. Simon Oliveira fought at 144 pounds, fought at featherweight. And he still lost. Second round submission. Armbar. Luan Lacerda, well done. An impressive performance. And we know and we have seen, probably will continuously see, people come in with a massive advantage if they miss weight. You don't have to deplete yourself. You come into the fight feeling way fresher, and then your cardio holds up at the latter end of the fight. Didn't matter, Luan Lacerda still dominated and was able to submit Simon Oliveira. And Simon Oliveira made, if fighting in your home country would not give you the urgency of making weight, and if he missed weight by 2 pounds, 8 pounds, sure. 8 pounds. Brother was basically laying in the hot tub or in the sauna eating ice cream or drinking it. Just, I'm not gonna put myself through this, and still lost. We saw Iontov versus Rufi, how impressive Iontov looked by missing weight. Probably would have gotten knocked out if it wasn't for that. You're fighting someone in a different weight class if you if they miss weight. It was insane. It's unforgivable, and it is insane. Second fight, Julia Palastri taking on Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and Palastri just put a beating on her. In the end, was able to finish Karolina, and just impressive performance from Julia Palastri. I had her winning the fight. The odd makers had her winning the fight. I thought probably would have been via decision. We don't really see a lot of stoppages, especially inside of women's mixed martial arts. Not only that, inside of unranked women's mixed martial arts, we don't tend to see finishes. And Julia Palastri just putting it on Karolina Kowalkiewicz on the feet. She looked dominant, and Karolina, eyes shut. Eyes shut. Okay, it looked like she couldn't see. That's how swollen she was, especially after a fight. A lot of damage by Palastri. If it went to a decision, would have been dominant, probably 30-27 for Julia Palastri. She looked really incredible during this fight. Next, Lucas Roja versus Stuart Nickel. Oh, I'm getting used to the Portuguese language. And then basically, Lucas just winning the fight, controlling Stuart Nickel. grappling exchanges. It looked like Nickel had the better of the exchanges in the first round, and then he got tired. Second round, third round, Lucas was able to basically just beat him in wherever the fight took place. Lucas looked extremely comfortable in that fight. And for a flyweight, Stewart getting tired in the first round it's not a sight you want to see, right? Especially if you are a Nickel fan. You don't want to see a flyweight get tired in the first round after basically getting 2 takedowns. Okay, you should be conditioned. You're 125 pounds, light as a feather, and I mean we see now. I don't want to use Merab as an example. We see Merab basically ragdolling people and just shoot for takedowns like he took a whiff of bath salts continuously, and he's able to sustain it. Now, I don't want to compare everyone to Merab, but if you are lighter than Merab, your opponents are lighter than Merab, you should be able to have a good gas tank. Underwhelming. Honestly, Stuart Nickel thought you would look better. I had Lucas winning this fight, had Royal winning this fight, and he did. Unanimous decision victory for him. Then moving on to the second fight on this card pertaining to women's mixed martial arts, Bia Mesquita versus Irina Alekseeva. And Bia looked good. Her martial arts look good, but if we're being men and we're being honest, she kind of looks good as well. Dominated Irina. With regards to grappling, dominated her and landed devastating ground and pound on Irina's face. End of the first round, Irina looked like she didn't want to be in there anymore, and you can't really fault her for that. Bia put a beating on her with elbows and 12 to 6 elbows and just elbows to the head, punches, raining down destruction from top position. And basically second round, got her out of there via submission. Was an impressive victory for Bia Mesquita, but she looked strong, she looked conditioned, and yeah, I think if you are able to fight, be a fighter inside of women's mixed martial arts, and you are dominant, and you are good looking, we have a star on our hands. Bia Mesquita is probably a star, gonna be a star. An impressive victory for her. She gets the win over Irina. And yeah, she looked really, really impressive. It'll be interesting to see her next fight. Definitely be tuning into that. If I see women's mixed martial arts and I see dominant performances, it kind of justifies watching it. You know? It doesn't feel like women's football, where you see people take shots and they just skew off the foot and you're thinking, I'm never getting those 90 minutes back in my life. Where with women's mixed martial arts, if you watch it, which I kind of have to, then there are points and certain moments where you watch and you think, I could have done anything else in 15 minutes. And it would probably have been better for my life as an individual. And then I watch fights like these and I'm like, yep, this is the reason why I watch it. It's not because of the aesthetic of certain women. It is because, well, fight fan, want to see impressive fights. Moving on, heavyweight division, Vitor Petrino versus Thomas Peterson. And this was extremely underwhelming. And I thought Vitor Petrino would win. Odds makers thought that as well. Was a big favorite heading into this fight. And then first round, it looks like I don't really know how to describe it, but Vitor Petrino threw good shots, had good combinations, and then Thomas Peterson, obviously wanting none of that on the feet, tried to initiate grappling exchanges and tried to take Vitor down. Vitor was able to reverse him sometimes and basically try and establish dominance with regards to grappling, which doesn't make sense at all. If you are built like Vitor Petrino, which few people are, because he is massive and yoked, and you don't necessarily want to look like that if you are a fighter. Why? Because muscles need energy, way more energy, and certain fighting styles it's just not sustainable. If you are a yoked guy with a lot of muscle, then you probably want to get out of a fight as soon as possible. First 2 rounds, you will have the advantage. You will have the strength advantage, not necessarily the speed advantage, but you have power, right? That's the reason why you build on certain muscles and explosive power with regards to striking especially. That's why you see the likes of Gregory Rodriguez when he fought Jack Hermanson. Basically dropped a nuke on Jack's head, Jack's gone. Okay, if you are a muscular guy, Alonzo Menafield, these muscular guys that are actually strikers, they don't want to be there for long. And they want to try and push the pace, especially in the first two rounds. Get the finish, because the longer this goes, the probability of you losing gets more and more. And Vito Petrino in the second round was sucking in the big ones. He was tired. After every single exchange, basically just walking to I don't know where, the other side of the octagon, and then waiting for Thomas Peterson. And Thomas Peterson is built like a water bottle. So also very tired. And then Thomas Peterson's like, well, now I have to walk after him, and I don't feel like doing that. And Vito Petrino doesn't want to push the pace. And third round, we saw him knock out Thomas Peterson, vicious knockout. And even though that knockout was impressive, the fight wasn't. If you are Vito Petrino, if you have more experience than your opponent, if you are built like something that came out of a lab, you would want to look better. You are at heavyweight now. You don't have to cut weight like you did at light heavyweight. Okay? You would think that the guy that looks more conditioned would be more conditioned. But second round, third round, felt like Thomas Peterson was pushing the pace and Vito Petrino was basically just doing nothing. And he has heavy hands. He has somewhat good striking. Put a beating on him. Try and in grappling exchanges basically just break off, establish range, and go off. The same, well, kind of what happened when you knocked him out. Who would have thought that would work? Thomas Peterson, with regards to striking, looked like he didn't do any striking training in his training camp. Basically, whenever he stroked 1-2, head down, leaning forward, was waiting to get clipped by an uppercut, was waiting to get caught. His body was wide open. Big men dig for the body and basically just try and take away at their gas tank, take away at gas that isn't there. And Vito Petrino got the win. It was underwhelming. I didn't like it. Didn't like the way it looked. I thought Vito Petrino would look more impressive, especially first round. You're fresh. Second round, you're still somewhat fresh. Second round, he was already sucking in the big ones. So, I don't know. I just... When I saw it, it just didn't feel like a product that looked good. I genuinely thought Vito Petrino would look better in that fight. Then Jafel Filho versus Clayton Carpenter. We had the pastor versus the carpenter, which is kind of ironic. And if we saw a crucifix in this fight, we would have seen everything that you could tie to, But Filho got the submission in the second round. He looked really impressive. Was it first round? It was the first round. I do apologize. It's been a time. But he looked really impressive in that first round. Was able to hit Carpenter. Carpenter landed some shots on Filho. Filho landed some shots on Carpenter. Really looked like Filho looked good on the feet, felt comfortable on the feet. But his grappling is really underrated. And his submission game is really underrated as well. Was basically in grappling exchanges with Clayton Carpenter. Clayton initiated it and basically got reversed. And then Filho ended up being in dom position, was able to submit Clayton Carpenter. And it was a good win for Filho. And that's all I can say. I do think he is underrated. I do think that next opponent inside of the flyweight division, probably gonna get a ranked opponent. Could probably get a ranked opponent, someone at 15, at 13-ish. I genuinely think he is that good. He is good on the feet, whether he's moving backwards, whether he's moving forward. You can see he feels comfortable. He did sting Carpenter with a couple of shots, big shots. So, yeah, he looked impressive. I think he looked really good. I thought Carpenter was going to win this fight. Got it completely wrong. And Filho deserved the win. Then moving on to the next one, Lucas Almeida versus Michael Aswell. Michael Aswell just put a beating on Lucas Almeida from the start of the bell up until the finish. And it was landing bombs. and it felt like referee was waiting for flatline. He was like, I didn't see no bell, didn't hear no bell, and basically just waiting for Lucas Almeida to drop flat and cease to exist for a couple of moments. Michael Aswell landing big bombs. There was speculation that Lucas Almeida actually broke his hand when we saw him at the weigh-ins, and it kind of looked like that. Didn't throw anything, didn't showcase anything of note, and yeah, Michael Aswell just didn't respect anything Lucas tried or did or threw, and just continuously walked forward and dropped hand grenade after hand grenade, and one of them landed flush, and then dropped Lucas Almeida a couple of times, I think 3 times, where he dropped him. Referee had to step in, and then basically with some ground and pound, referee steps in, fights over. An impressive victory for Michael Aswell. He looked really good. I don't really know if Lucas Almeida was healthy. If he didn't have a broken hand, would he have won this fight? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It's difficult to say. I don't think so, because of how Aswell fought, fighting on the front foot, putting pressure on Lucas Almeida, basically dictating space and taking his space away, not chasing after him, rather circling him, and basically looked like having a wild animal and pushing it against the corner. And Almeida didn't know where to go, and he walked into a lot of overhand rights, swingy shots. Impressive victory for Michael Aswell. Then moving on to the main card, start off with Ricardo Ramos versus Con Offley. Ramos initiate the grappling against Con Offley. Con ended up getting his back and ended up submitting him, rear naked choke. A lot of times Con did grab the fence though, so it's tough. I think probably should have gotten a point deducted. Grabbed the fence on 3 separate occasions, which is a lot. But Con Offley won this fight. Thought he would win this fight. Actually picked him as a dog, and he did win via rear naked choke. Ricardo Ramos, I don't know how long he will still be within the UFC. Brother has been on a losing spree, and it has been loss after loss after loss. Got a win in between all of that, which was extremely extremely controversial, and now lose again to Con Offley. I think Simon Oliveira, Ricardo Ramos, the noose is getting tighter and tighter. Then moving on, Jonata Deniz versus Mario Pinto. An impressive performance from Mario Pinto. Trained with Tom Aspinall. And this is a take that I have, right? I think we're going to see more. And I pray to God that I'm right. I think we're going to start seeing more conditioned heavyweights that don't come in at the limit of 265, that come in a little bit leaner at like 240 or 250, right? And they have a better gas tank. If you saw this fight, Mario Pinto versus Jonata Deniz, you saw both of them respect... what? Yeah. Individually. You would see that Mario Pinto looks more conditioned. He genuinely looks like a fighter. We see Jonata Deniz and a lot of heavyweights that look like this. They just don't look conditioned at all. Marcin Tybura, Deniz. I could basically go through a whole list of fighters. And the difference between these guys, Deniz, Marcin Tybura, guys that don't look conditioned, that are unranked, and guys that don't look conditioned, that are ranked. The Derek Lewis's of the world, the Bam Bam Tuivasa in his, let's call it somewhat prime. The difference is power and fighter mentality. Derek Lewis will fight till the end and try and throw bombs up until the very end. With guys that aren't that good, the same with Tai Tuivasa, with guys that aren't that good, guys like Deniz, guys like Tybura, right? They're not known for being a threat on the feet. So their opponents will basically just continuously walk forward, and if your conditioning is that bad and you don't pose that much of a threat, now even though Deniz does have heavy hands, it doesn't feel Derek Lewis heavy, it doesn't feel Tai Tuivasa heavy. Even guys that are also very big, Sergey Pavlovich and those guys. It doesn't feel like that imminent of a threat, right? So basically, Mario Pinto could just walk him down and try and wear on that gas tank because Pinto is way more conditioned. Pinto trained with Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall is one of, no, no Diddy, probably one of the best looking heavyweights on planet Earth. And I'm not referring to his face, I'm referring to the way he looks. He looks conditioned. He doesn't look that heavy. He is. He's a massive, massive guy. But it doesn't look like he is that heavy. It doesn't look. If you see Tom Aspinall fight and you see Curtis Blades fight, the one is flowy because he's heavy, because he's lighter. He's more conditioned. He has less weight to carry. He can be more explosive. Where Curtis Blades is just this massive block of a man. And if he doesn't get his way, if he doesn't get the benefit of the grappling exchanges, then it's going to be a long night. We're seeing more evolved heavyweights. Hopefully heavyweights will see this and think, yep, should probably look like that. Should probably look like Mario Pinto instead of looking like Renata Deniz. Should probably try and look like Telesin Teixeira, these new breed of heavyweights. I think that is the future. Mario Pinto versus Renata Deniz. Basically, Pinto just took him down at will, was able to showcase great grappling, good wrestling, had him with sweeps, was able to get a single leg, was able to get a double leg, took him down, and then just put a beating on him. Really working on the ground with ground and pound, had Deniz in a deep Kimura, which looking at that, thought it was probably going to be the end. It wasn't, so well done to Deniz for toughening that out. But yeah, Mario Pinto just looked levels above Jonathan Deniz in this fight. And hopefully we will get heavyweights see this and think, maybe it would help if I shed 15 pounds and if I was more explosive, more conditioned, actually looked like an athlete. If you're not Derek Lewis or Tai Tuivasa. If you're those two guys, you can look however and basically just fight. Well, don't care. We'll watch. If you don't, if you're unranked, guarantee you that this would benefit you if you looked the part as well. If you are the part and you look the part, you'll get the part. All right. Moving on, not co-main event, but Vicente Luque versus Joel Alvarez. Joel Alvarez taking this fight on short notice, stepping in for this fight, and basically a lightweight fought at welterweight and looked really good against Vicente Luque. Round 1 threw a left hook which caught Vicente Luque. Vicente thought that it was an eye poke, went down. Referee waved it off. Did this, which it's not Ibiza, right? Did this, basically waved the fight off, and then thought it was an eye poke and gave Vicente Luque time to recover. Vicente did, and the fight continued. So props for Joel Alvarez actually beating Vicente Luque twice. Second round, and Joel dominated Vicente Luque. Usually when we see fights that are called off, a guy wins and then all of a sudden it's called back on for some reason and that fighter has to fight once again, you see this massive dip, this massive dive in adrenaline, in ambition, and basically you see fighters just crash, right? So massive props to Joel Alvarez beating Vicente Luque via unanimous decision. Should have been a stoppage, first round stoppage. I don't care. If Luque thought there was a poke and he goes down and he can't compete anymore, but it wasn't a poke, then it's a legitimate TKO win for Joel Alvarez. That's what it should be. That's what it should have been. But, we don't always get what we want. Second round, and Joel just dominated him. Probably a 10-8 round for Joel Alvarez. Vicente Luque tried to pull guard. Joel was on top, landing massive blows, landing 12 to 6 elbows, massive normal elbows to the face, devastating ground and pound, and basically scored a 10-8 round. And then third round starts, and basically Joel Alvarez catches Vicente Luque in a reverse triangle, right? So basically a triangle from top, but it's reversed, not necessarily what it would look like, and basically just stood there kneeled there for 3 minutes, weathering it out. He got the win. If I was Joel, probably wouldn't have tried something else either. You could imagine if Joel Alvarez in the third round had that submission and really tried to push it, maybe got reversed, found himself in an uncomfortable position. Vicente Luque is experienced, start raining down punches, could have lost that fight. So rather just take the win. Should have been a first round knockout win. It wasn't, but you still get the win on short notice at a heavier weight class. Usually fights at lightweight, fought at welterweight versus Vicente Luque. Impressive performance for Joel Alvarez. Davison Figueiredo versus Montel Jackson co-main event. Fight was underwhelming as it was horrible. Because Montel Jackson didn't push the pace at all. You would think if you're Montel Jackson, you're fighting a Brazilian in Brazil. So if it comes down to a decision, then probably it would help. It would be beneficial if you push the pace, if you up the volume, and you don't have to increase your volume by drastic measures. Just look more active. Throw more leg kicks. In striking exchanges, Montel Jackson is way quicker, and we've seen him in the past knock people out at bantamweight. So it was odd. It didn't make a lot of sense watching it. Davison Figueiredo felt like in the grappling exchanges he had the better Montel Jackson. Montel Jackson still not being able to dictate range probably as well as he wanted to. It was underwhelming. Davison Figueiredo won. I kind of agree with the judges, even though I had Montel winning that fight. I do agree with the judges' scorecard. I don't think Montel Jackson did enough to warrant a victory. And yeah, in Brazil, if you're going to fight like that, it goes to a decision, they're probably going to give it to the Brazilian. That's just how it works. Co-main event time. The what everyone's been waiting for. Kind of the only reason why people would watch this video. Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot. Now, there is a certain fan base in mixed martial arts that would diminish a fighter's success because that fighter opposes their favorite fighter or fighters, right? Now, I'm not going to name a specific group, but they tend to diminish achievements because that fighter might be a threat to their beloved fighter. When Ilya knocked out Charles Oliveira, that fan base tried to convince you that Charles is washed, that he sucks, that anyone would be able to beat Charles Oliveira. Right? That this wasn't the Charles Oliveira who beat Dustin Poirier, who beat Justin Gaethje, who beat Michael Chandler twice, who basically is one of the best lightweights of all time. They tried to convince you otherwise. And what we saw is, once again, Charles Oliveira distinguishes himself from the rest of the pack. Charles Oliveira is unanimously still one of the 5 best lightweights on planet Earth, with only a couple better than them. Ilya, Islam, Arman, because Arman beat him, but that fight was close. I think if they ran it back, it would probably be interesting. And I'd probably say Max Holloway. That's it. There are 4 fighters in the lightweight division right now that are better than Charles Oliveira. And don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. And he looked insane. Fought Mateusz Gamrot, and we had grappling exchanges, we had striking exchanges. It was a fun fight for as long as it lasted. And Charles Oliveira basically fighting on the front foot as soon as he realized that he isn't dealing with Ilya power. And Gamrot was landing flush. Gamrot was landing hooks and overhands. And looking at the shots, kind of winced because you thought it was heavy. When Charles knew that he wasn't going to get knocked out, you're in for a tough night. Because he's going to walk forward, he's going to throw what he's going to throw. He's going to throw his hooks, his straights, and basically going to try and initiate grappling exchanges, get you to the ground, because that's where he has his most success. And he did. And Charles Oliveira is probably the banner for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu right now, inside of the UFC. Because you look at that guy and you look at his grappling on the ground, you look at his jiu-jitsu on the ground, and you think there is a massive place for this in the sport. But then you have to take a few steps back. It's not just BJJ. Charles Oliveira has improved leaps and bounds with regards to his wrestling as well, his offensive wrestling, where he goes in for single legs. Had a great takedown against Mateusz Gamrot, which started from a single leg. So he has looked good. He has evolved with regards to offensive wrestling. If you have offensive wrestling, you have that good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you're a threat. Not only that, Charles is about as complete as you would possibly get with regards to a mixed martial artist. With regards to his striking, has heavy hands. With regards to his elbows, caught Mateusz Gamrot with a nasty elbow as well. Good inside of the clinch, good striking at range with good hooks, has good grappling, has good wrestling. He is probably as complete as you would ask for with regards to the lightweight division. But he got caught against Ilia Topuria because Ilia's power might just be completely different. Saw Charles in this fight versus Mateusz Gamrot. Gamrot caught him. So if you're not able to shut Charles down and knock him out, it's kind of like Yuri. If you're not able to knock Yuri out, if he doesn't respect your power, you're in for a long night. The same with Charles Oliveira. He will drag you into deep waters and he will try and submit you. And Charles Oliveira has proven that if you fight a wrestler, if you have good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you fight a wrestler, if you fight on the front foot, you are winning that fight. Because a wrestler, a grappler just can't shoot from the back foot, have a lazy shot against someone who has the credentials of Charles Oliveira, especially with regards to his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Because if you shoot lazy, you might get caught in a guillotine. Charles has one of the best guillotines probably ever in UFC history. So it was a really tough matchup for Mateusz Gamrot. I know Gamrot took this fight on short notice. Charles Oliveira got knocked out, got sent to Alice in Wonderland only a couple of months ago. So both men came into this fight and already had somewhat of an excuse. If Charles lost, well, way too early of a comeback. If Mateusz lost, well, short notice. And Charles Oliveira distinguished himself once again. And once again showcased that there are levels to this game. Still, to this day. Charles Oliveira is one of the best lightweights on planet Earth. And he beats every single one outside of the top 5. I even think he beats Paddy Pimblett. So an impressive victory for Charles Oliveira. It was insane. Also on this event, we saw a tribute to Jose Aldo, the King of Rio. And it was beautiful. Basically walked down and walked through the tunnel. It was like he was fighting, and then inside of the octagon, took his gloves, laid him in the center with his wife and his daughter. It was insane. It was beautiful. A lot of respect for Jose Aldo. Genuinely deserved it. A legend of mixed martial arts, legend of the UFC, deserves all of the credit he got. I was glad that the UFC did this for him in his home country, in Rio de Janeiro. That was also insane. I enjoyed this card. I enjoyed it. Well, looking at it last week, I thought, tough watch. And basically just want to get through these cards and see Aspinall versus Gane. But this fight card was impressive enough to actually enjoy it. I enjoyed a lot of fights on this card. Luan de Serda enjoyed, obviously, Mesquita. Enjoyed that fight as well. Polastri looked good. And yeah, there was good performances. Mario Pinto looked good. And I enjoyed the card. Joel Alvarez as well. So that's it. Those are my reactions for UFC Brazil. Let me know in the comment section which fight did you enjoy the most. And what do you think and who do you think Charles Oliveira should fight next? Should he fight Max Holloway next? Call down Max Holloway, BMF belt, Oliveira versus Max. And Max basically said that if that fight happens, he wants it in Vegas. He's not going to Brazil. He did that for Charles the first time they fought. We do have some tension there. I think it would be insane. Both men respecting one another. Two fighters that are just absolute donnies in the sport, fighting for the BMF belt. It would make sense. It'd be an insane event. Could market that. And Max all the way. Charles Oliveira. It would be insane. Have a beautiful day. I'll catch you on the next one. Don't sleep on the 97 Republic. Don't sleep with your cousin.